Welcome to Arches National Park in gorgeous Moab, Utah. Now, normally when we come to Moab for TFL, there's huge pickup trucks or Jeeps involved, but not today. Today we're hitting the trail on something you might not expect to see out on the trails of Moab, but Honda is looking to change that. This video, we're gonna look at the all-new 2019 Honda Passport. Now, we're not just out here to drive on the tarmac roads of Moab, we're heading off-road. So make sure you stay tuned as we show you how good this Passport is off-road. We'll climb through the interior, show you all the features, and then we'll get to pricing and see how this thing stacks up with its competition. So let's talk styling. At the back here, the Passport has a more raked rear windshield than the larger Pilot, but besides that, around back, and then sort of as you walk down the side of this vehicle, it's basically the same as the Pilot. Up front is where you really see the difference. Now, every single Honda Passport gets this blacked out look. It gets this nice black trim, a unique black grille, that lower black fascia. Now, that also helps with the approach angle, and it gets those black trim pieces around the wheel arches, and sort of overall it comes together to give this thing a more aggressive, sporty look than that of the Pilot. Although, if I'm honest, I think they could have gone a little bit further differentiating the two models. So here we are behind the wheel of the new Passport. And yes, we are in Moab, Utah, which means we're going off-road, but that'll be a little later in the video. For now, we're just driving on-road, so let's talk about everything you need to know about this new Passport. So first of all, under the hood is a 3.5-liter V6. It makes 280 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, and that is mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it is. This is essentially the exact same powertrain that you'll find in the larger Honda Pilot. Now, when it was first released, there was some complaints about this 9-speed automatic, but in regular street driving here today, I haven't really felt anything worth complaining about. You bare your foot, and you know what? It does take a little bit longer than I'd like to kick down, but it definitely does kick down. It finds the gear it wants, and it gives you that power. The upshifts are seamless. Yeah, for the most part, I've been very happy with the 9-speed. And then when it comes to power, off the line, you get a decent little kind of punch of power, but definitely in the mid-range, the Passport doesn't really feel all that quick. But this is a lighter vehicle than the Pilot, so comparatively, yes, it does feel just, a little smaller, a little sportier, and there's a few different aspects to that. Simply just suspension tuning. Honda made sure that this thing is a little stiffer, a little flatter through the corners, and then they also made the steering rack quicker. So we have a nice quick steering ratio here, and it really is, it's a little bit touchy, but when you are driving around some of these nice sweeping corners that we have here in Moab, the Passport feels really tight. There's really no body roll to speak of. So for, a mid-size SUV of this size, the on-road handling is pretty impressive as well. So another thing that needs to be mentioned about driving the Honda Passport here is Honda Sensing. That's Honda's suite of driver assistance technologies, and it comes standard on every single Passport, even the base model. So it includes things like road departure mitigation, lane keep assist, front collision avoidance, and front collision warning. But maybe one of the most interesting features is the adaptive cruise control, and that's because it is standard on every single one of these Passport models. And another big part of the handling story here is the all-wheel drive system. So yes, basic Passport models will just be front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is available, and the key with this all-wheel drive system is torque vectoring. So if you get all-wheel drive, you can send up to 70% of the engine's power to the rear wheels, and then 100% of that power can be diverted from left to right, which means that when you're cornering, especially aggressively at speed, you're gonna get torque vectoring, sending more power to the outside wheel, helping this thing to rotate. Now, one final thing about the handling, there's really no torque steer here to speak of, and because it's front wheel drive biased, you might expect that, but you really don't feel that coming through the wheel. And there is a fun little screen down here in my info cluster which shows the torque split, so you can see exactly where the power is going, which is just fun to watch. But when you nail it off the start, most of the power still goes to the front wheels, so you might expect torque steer, but there isn't any. You know, overall, on road, this is a nice handling, quiet, comfortable riding mid-size SUV. So when it comes to competition, Honda sees the Passport here doing battle with vehicles like the Nissan Murano, the Ford Edge, the Toyota 4Runner, and the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Well, two of those, the Grand Cherokee and the 4Runner, they're very off-road focused, while the other two, the Edge and the Murano, yeah, not so much. Honda kind of sees the Passport sitting right in the middle of those four vehicles, still having the on-road comfort that you would expect from a Honda, but with off-road chops a little bit better than you'd expect from most stock vehicles. So first of all, what are the numbers here? Well, the ground clearance is 0.8 inches taller than a Pilot to come in for a total of 8.1 inches of ground clearance, which is kind of like they said, just okay, sort of right in that middle ground. But that's all really just a bunch of numbers. How does it really work when you get off-road? Take a look. So now let's look at one of the main reasons the Passport exists, and that's just for going off-road. Now the approach angle here is 21.4 degrees, while the departure angle is 27.7, and that departure angle is way better than a Pilot because the rear end overhang is so much shorter. So Honda basically says that, you know, for the Pilot customer who wants something a little sportier and a little more off-road focused, you're gonna want a Passport. So how does it handle? Well, we just came off a sort of slow speed off-road course with some sort of small rock crawling sections, and the Passport handled it really well. And certainly nothing we did today was all that intense, but as you can see from some of this footage, there was a couple times where, you know, we were really close to scraping, but having those improved angles kept us out of the rocks. But realistically, right now what we're doing is probably more what Passport customers will do. This is just a dirt road, and it's actually kind of muddy out here today, so we're really getting to see how this all-wheel drive system splits power. So the Passport system is able to send 70% of the power to the rear wheels, and then it can split 100% of the power from right to left. And that's really one of the things that Honda's all-wheel drive system does, I'd say better than most, is torque vectoring. And when you're out here on this soft, kind of muddy clay, when you're coming through corners, you know, this thing has no business turning as well as it does. Because I look at the surface, I say that's a slick surface, it's gonna understeer, and then suddenly you just feel it rotate, and that's all torque vectoring. But what the result is a really confident feeling vehicle, and the torque vectoring basically works in the background. So if you're not really, you know, paying attention to it, or if you don't even know it's there, it's still going to help you out. It's not going to get in the way. So two last things for the off-roading crowd. First of all, I do like that the Passport has paddle shifters, and you're able to put it into manual mode, and then you can control the gear. And I did do a lot of that crawling just stuck in first, and it would never upshift, so that's nice, just having control of your gears. The second thing are all the drive modes. The Passport here has normal, snow, mud, and sand, and essentially they're going to change up how the all-wheel drive system splits power. So if you put it in snow mode, for example, it's going to basically be rear biased. It's going to send power to the back right away and make sure that you get a nice smooth takeoff. In snow mode, it's also going to take your throttle response back a little bit so you don't slip the tires. Unlike sand mode, which is actually going to give you a little bit more aggressive throttle response, it's going to allow the tires to slip so you can really, you know, lay into that thing and get some traction in the sand. Now, honestly, we have been running today in normal mode a lot, and that's the nice thing about the all-wheel drive system is that it's intelligent, right? It's feeling what's going on. If it feels slip, it'll send the power. But the key with the drive modes is if you know you're getting into something kind of slippery or kind of scary, well, you put it in the appropriate drive mode, and then the vehicle is prepared for that situation before you get into it. So after hitting that admittedly fairly light trail, I do think Honda kind of nailed the positioning of this thing. It's definitely not as hardcore as a Grand Cherokee or especially a 4Runner. Remember, that thing's body on frame. But it definitely feels a little more off-road worthy than something like a Ford Edge. So some of its competitors, yes, are better off-roaders and some aren't. But one of the things that the Honda does almost better than any other vehicle in its class is towing. This thing is rated to tow 5,000 pounds when you have the all-wheel drive system, and really only the Jeep Grand Cherokee can outdo it. And you can tell that Honda paid some attention to the customers who will be towing because of the backup camera angles. So the backup camera here has 3 different angles, one of which looks directly down at your hitch ball. You don't need a spotter, you can just back that thing in and align it perfectly. So now let's talk about the interior here. And the Passport that we're in is a Passport Elite model. So this is a fully loaded model. So you'd expect it to be kind of luxurious, and it really is. You know, you get nice piano black trim, leather wrapped steering wheel, leather seats. The seats are nice and supportive, comfortable, no issues there. And one of the things I really like about this interior that catches your eye is the 7-inch screen here in my info cluster. It just has these really nice, vivid colors, and it's simply just nice to look at. So let's check out this back seat space here, guys. So this front seat is set up for my driving position. I stand at about 6'2", and I actually have enough leg room. I'm actually not touching, and if someone smaller was up there driving, I'd have lots of space. Now, headroom too, I got a lot of clearance, no issue there. And the nice thing about this Elite model is that you get 2 USB ports down here, and you get the 2-prong AC outlet, which is always appreciated. Plus, heated seats. Same goes for Honda's infotainment system here. It offers Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, those 2 most important features of any infotainment system these days, but it also just responds quickly and it looks nice. If I do have a complaint, it's the lack of redundant buttons. I wouldn't mind a few more buttons here, maybe for seek, finding different radio stations, stuff like that. Honda did bring back the volume knob. As many of you may remember, they decided to totally get rid of that, and people lost their minds. So they brought back the volume knob, but because all those other controls are gone, I do kind of find myself missing them. But it is fair to say if you owned this, you'd probably get totally used to that. And there is a full array of buttons here on my steering wheel. Now on the right-hand side, this is all for the adaptive cruise control system, but on the left, I have everything I could possibly need. So basically everything from the front seats up here, it's identical to the 2019 Pilot, but it's in the back where things start to change. So just talking about size, the Passport here is 6.2 inches shorter than a Pilot, even though it rides on the same wheelbase. And one of the things Honda is very proud of is having class-leading cargo space in the back. So this is just a 5-seat SUV, so there's just 1 row back there. Now when that row is in use, behind it, you get 41.2 cubic feet of cargo space, which is quite a lot. And then if you fold that seat down, you're gonna get a total of 78 cubic feet of space. And in typical Honda fashion, they're very clever in the way they use the space, and one of the things they did was design a little trunk right in the rear end underneath the rear floor. It really is a clever use of what's going on back there, and it's a nice little secure hidden space to put your stuff. So now the most important part, what does it all cost? Well, first of all, let me tell you that Honda has actually decided to get rid of one of the trims here on the Passport, at least compared to the Pilot. So the base Passport model is the Passport Sport. Basically, Honda says that the customer who wants this vehicle probably won't want a bare bones version. So the Sport already comes with a whole long list of standard features. Now, starting price for the Passport Sport in US dollars is $31,990. Now move up one, you get to the EXL. That trim will sell for $36,412. Moving up, you get to the Passport Touring. That'll go for $39,280. And finally, this model that we're in right here, the fully loaded Elite model, will go for $43,680. So is that price really any good? Well, yes, it's right in the middle of its competitive set. The Ford Edge starts just a little less at $29,900. The Jeep Grand Cherokee is basically the exact same, selling for $31,400 to start. And then the 4Runner is actually sort of the expensive one in the group. It starts at $35,000. So once you get up to this $43,000 Elite model, Honda says that there are no more options. You're getting everything possible, and I can't really argue with that. You're getting things like wireless charging for your cell phone, heated and cooled front seats, and even auto-dimming side mirrors. So after driving the Passport here for a full day, did Honda really nail what they wanted to achieve? Well, if you ask me personally, I wish they had gone a little further, a bit more of a lift, slightly larger tires, but that's the off-road guy in me. I'm always gonna want more. Now, the truth of the matter is, yes, I think Honda did just enough to offer its customers, a cut above the Pilot when it comes to capability. So when you buy the Passport, you are gonna feel like you got something that no other Honda vehicle offers, and that's enough to attract buyers. So if you ask me, yes, I think Honda nailed exactly what it set out to do. So any day you get to spend here in Moab, well, that is a great day. If you get a chance to come out here, especially to Arches National Park, you have to do it. And it was a great setting to really test this Passport. Now, no, it's not gonna keep up with the big Jeep Wranglers out here on the hardcore Moab trails, but if you're looking for a mid-size SUV with above average off-road chops and comfortable, competent on-road driving, look no further than the Honda Passport. So make sure you guys head down below, hit subscribe to the channel, and come back here to TFL for the latest news, views, and Honda Passport Moab reviews. See ya.